Hi, been a long time. I want to do a quick over-under test for the FX30 and kind of take a look at the -1 and -2 stop underexposure textures, that what I could get out of the FX30 to see if it compares relatively to a grain-like structure and if there's like any breaking or the awful, god-awful chroma noise that Sony systems are plagued with. I want to kind of do this because, again, to compare it with the grain from DaVinci, but there's the elephant in the room of YouTube compression. And how I want to go about this is, again, this is going to be kind of a creative-ish test. I want to do it in a what's creative mean? I'm not going to do it with the color charts there to check stuff, but like I'm not perfectly exposed probably. I'm good exposed good to my eye, and I kind of want to do it in that way. And I'm going to upload to YouTube as ProRes 422 HQ, just because the stuff that I do with the FX30 is going to be uploaded to web as 422 HQ or H.264, H.265, depending on the client, depending on the project. But most of the stuff that I do, if it involves any kind of texture grain, I choose to upload it at 422 HQ. The most sites that I upload to, or the, someone that I work with uploads to, would be YouTube or Vimeo, and they have their own compression algorithms and stuff, which is why I want to do 422 HQ, and just try to see how it compares with that compression. So this is my long way of saying I'm going to upload it as 422 HQ. All right, let's go. All right, so I'm just gonna let it run, and then you can come to your own conclusions, and I will talk over it. So I guess that'll be fun. Okay, so between the zero exposure, like the perfect exposure, and +1 and +2 and +3, I do see there's a little bit of color difference, and that is kind of concerning to me because I don't really understand why there is a color difference, because there shouldn't be, because it's, I don't know, I didn't think that overexposure would have such a vast color difference, and there's a little bit of also the shadow detail difference too. In underexposure land, same thing, especially after -3, you get a lot of noise, you get a lot of color differences, which is to be expected, and I am kind of fine with that because I don't really usually do that. I'm just really interested in the -1 and -2 exposure stops. As far as the 2500 EI goes, if I'm going to do underexposure, I would totally go with 2500 EI because there is a bit more noise in that. Of course, the ISO is higher, so you get a little bit more of a texture out of that. And other than that, I thought that 2500 EI would be better for highlight retention, but in this test, it doesn't seem to be that way, which kind of makes me think like, did I do something wrong in this test, which I didn't think that I did. I know that I didn't do it, but yeah. And as far as the color changes go, again, I know that like I didn't change anything, and it was at night. I just had my own lights on, so that is kind of a mystery to me. Grain versus noise thing, of course, like the noise structure, the noise pattern of this camera doesn't really match the grain that I want, that I would look for in something like this, but it's like yeah, it's completely fine. It does give a little bit of texture, and it is a gritty texture that I like somehow, and I do really want to use it in a creative environment sometime when I test a new lens or something like that, and I would really like to try it out. But the grain and the added grain has generally a more pleasant thing to it. As far as the Tamron goes, because the whole thing that I did was with the Helios and the Tamron tests will give better results in general, because for the Helios one I had to add some contrast, and I was really careful about not changing my middle gray point, but I had to add a little bit of contrast because it's such a low contrast thing. But it was also fine because the whole thing about this was, again, I have a creative grade on it. I don't have just like a Rec 709 thing, because in a real world scenario, I wouldn't really use it. Just as Rec 709, I would have a grade going. But I also know that I wouldn't really have noise reduction going, which was a big part of the thing. I mean, I try to not do that. At least I've not been in a position, the stuff that I've shot, at least not the stuff that I graded, but I didn't have to noise reduce that a lot. So yeah, with Tamron, we do see a better, in general, better results. I mean, more true to life results, I think. So yeah, but everything I said is true. I really wonder why the overexposure color shift happens. I would really like to know that. But other than that, everything is basically the same. And at the end, if we take a look at the Tamron versus Helios, yeah, that's just like a lens talk thing. I like the Helios a lot better because it has a lot more of a life to it, I guess. Doesn't mean that I don't like the Tamron, but yeah, in general, 2500 EI with 2 stops underexposed has worked well. I think has worked better than 1 stop underexposed somehow, or maybe maybe I should get just the 1.5 stops or something like that to get a little bit of texture. But that will again be tried out, and I will report back when I do a more creative project on these. Yep. Yeah, cool. One more thing that I want to talk about is the difference of bokeh and the general look between Helios and Tamron, which I talked about before. And why am I talking about it again? Why the does it matter? I don't even know, but here I am. Yeah, cool. Okay. I'll see you in the next one, and hopefully that next one will be in 1 week. I've been busy. I've been doing some stuff, which I've been loving it, but I also want to do some videos. But sometimes you have an unhealthy relationship with the videos too, and you gotta sometimes take a step back and just think like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I even doing this? Why the does this even matter? Is anyone going to be like, yeah, that's a huge difference. Is this gonna matter? Did anyone watch this? Are you one of the 53 people that watched this? Yeah, it's just the existential dread of winter. You go on to big sets. Why am I even talking about this? I don't know. I've got 5 minutes. The existential dread when you're going on to sets, and then you think like, well, I'm a piece of shit. I don't know anything. You feel like an imposter, and then you come back home and do the silly little my silly little YouTube videos, and I think to myself, well, does this even matter what I do? You know that? I'm gonna turn this off, and yeah, this is just that thing. Hopefully this helped. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.